Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Eclectic Knitter Podcast. My name, of course, is Raylene, aka Come On and Knits on Ravelry. You can find show notes for this episode and all other episodes at theeclecticknitter.com. Episodes are posted, there's a link posted on the Ravelry group. It's also posted on YouTube, and it's uploaded to iTunes, and of course directly on the blog as well, if you prefer. This is episode 67. Welcome to any new viewers. If you watched before, thank you for coming back, of course. We are trying a slightly different, more professional, but more messy setup. So I'm in my office. Totally looks like an office, right? Not a yarn room at all. You see the filing cabinet? The filing cabinet's like right there. That's my filing cabinet. And this is my work computer and my work printer, and the yarn is, yeah, it looks like a mess. It's a hot mess. I don't have enough totes to store everything, and I kind of like using my IKEA shelves that I used to use as bookcases, but now I have actual bookcases in the living room, so I don't need those anymore, and they work pretty nice. And then you can see on the bookcase over here, that bookcase is one that my dad actually made for me when I was in grade 2. It holds my knitting books on the bottom shelf and a little bit, and then on the top shelf and a little bit. In the middle is my cookbooks. So you can see there's yarn overflow like on the top and on the top of the filing cabinet. Anyway, it's a mess. There's overflow on all my bins. I'm trying to get my hands straight. But the lighting's actually not bad in here. I'm facing a big window. It's about 20 after 6 in the evening on August 19th. So the light's pretty good, and I have the blinds closed actually. So I'm getting a lot of really nice natural light, and maybe it'll look less pokey. The camera also won't move when I move, so that's, I guess, a benefit. A step in the right direction, as it were. So today could be a shorter show. I've been plugging away at one specific project, and I finished it today. I wasn't going to record till I finished it. So it's pretty much all I've been working on for at least the last week. So I have a little bit of progress on some other stuff as well. I have no spinning finished objects, and I have one knitting finished object. So we'll get started with the knitting the knitting finished object, or my foe. I finally finished my Starting Point Mystery Cowl by Joji Locatelli, which I started when it was first released. The first clue was released in, I think it was middle of May. So I finally finished it. Last time we spoke, I was just starting the chevrons on the second half. So I was like all the way back here on this half. So I finished that half, and I finished the 2 middle triangles, and it is so not meeting up nicely in the middle, but I kind of knew that. So when I finished the second triangle, when I finished the second half, I realized that my stitch count was off on both halves. One was over by 5 stitches and one was under by 5 stitches, and there was no way I was reknitting both of them. So my middle looks wonky. I don't know if I care. So yeah, that was that. It's not blocked. And I remember when I started. Okay, so I'm going to go through the colors. The white, well, pale bluish gray, is Tosh Merino Light in Moon Glow. That was my color 1. Color 2 is the pink, which is Tosh Merino Light in the Coquette colorway. Color 3 is the Speckle. This is Hedgehog Fiber Skinny Singles in the Monet colorway. And then color 4 is the darkest color, which is this. It is TML in the Thunderstorm colorway. And then color 5 is the blue, which is Tosh Merino Light in the Baltic colorway. And I remember when I first posted on the forums, or the threads for this cowl, I actually got a couple questions about what I was going to do if I ran out of color number 3. Because for color number 3, she had listed that you needed, I think, almost 400 meters, maybe 390 meters. I think you needed like a 420 yard skein. And the Hedgehog Fibers skinny singles is only 400 yards. So 300 and, no, it's less than 400 yards. It's 366 meters. That's all I can remember right now. So I had people asking me, what are you going to do if you run out? What are you going to do if you run out? And I said, I will see where I'm at in the colors and where I'm at in the pattern, and substitute if possible. So I finished the 2 sides, and then I mentioned last time that I thought I had enough yarn to finish it, but that I hadn't looked ahead at the pattern to see how much clue 3 was used, or yarn 3 was used in clue 5. So what I did was I did this first section of number 3, and then I did this first stripey section where you're striping colors 3 and 5, or like this section here. And then I ended both yarns like I was supposed to, and then I went to the other half and I did that same section. And I weighed my color number 3 after I had completed both sections of this number 3, and I had 3.77 grams left. And I still needed to do this wee tiny section up there on both sides. So I went ahead and did the first one. I finished up the first one and did that section in my Hedgehog Fibers. And then I weighed my skein again. And then I had 2.89 grams left. So I used about 1 gram, just under. So I was able to finish the whole thing with one skein of the Monet. I do have a second skein, but the colors, they're not the same dye lot. They're not even from the same vendor. And they do not look anything alike. Not really. Like, it's the same in general, but the blue base for the second skein that I have is a lot paler. So yeah, like I said, my middle looks wonky. I don't know if I care, because I'm probably going to use this as a scarf. In which case, it does not matter. Nobody's going to see it. So there are a couple other things that I did differently. When I was doing clue 1 the first time, I got confused about what was my color 5 and what was my color 4. So here I did this section in color 5 instead of color 4. And on the second half, I did it the right way. You can see here. And I absolutely hated the twisted rib. Absolutely hated it. I can do lace, like these lace sections. I could do that all day long. Twisted rib was terrible. So the first one I did all the twisted rib. The second time I went through, I did not do a twisted rib. I did a regular rib. And I knew 4 rows in that I didn't like the regular rib, but I was not ripping I was not ripping those 4 rows of rib back, and I was not doing, I think it's like 10 rows of twisted rib over almost 200 stitches. Wasn't doing it. So I did the twisted rib again when I did these other triangles, but other than that, like, this one does not. And once again, I don't know how many people are actually going to see it like spread out and notice, oh, hey, this looks different from that. I don't know. I don't care. My yardage for this was 1,450 meters. I don't know what that is in yards. You American people are going to have to do that math on your own. The only skein that I used everything of was the Monet. The other that I was close was color number 4, which is the darkest colorway. Next was color number 1, which was the lightest colorway. And then 2 and 5, I used over half the skein. So I wish it was all garter. Personally, I would have enjoyed it more if it had all been garter. But that's me. And I could do it. I don't mind the eyelet rows. Those were cool. If I was to do this again, I might do it all in garter. Because I like garter. I really like garter. So, anyway. That's that. It's finally done. I am unofficially taking part in Stash Dash, which ends on the 23rd, I believe. So that's a couple days away. And that puts me at over 8,000 meters. But like I said, it's unofficial. I don't have pictures for everything, so that's part of my problem. Like the little boxy that I did for my niece, I don't have a picture of it, so it technically wouldn't count, I don't believe. And that's like 550 meters or something. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't have any spinning FOs. So knitting whips, I finished the first sock of this. This is Lollipop Yarns Beefcake in the Stardust colorway, and this is the mini skein that you get with it. This still to me looks like wildflowers. So I'm done the first sock. I haven't cast on the second sock. And then the other whip I have is these socks in On the Round Signature sock in Rebel. So this is the first sock. I had it finished last time. I knit this first sock on DPNs because I was at my brother and sister-in-law's place and forgot needles at home. Forgot an entire project at home, had to buy needles. It was a mess. And I've cast on the second sock and I'm done the heel. I just need to work down. And I've switched it to circulars. I did the ribbing and like a couple rows on DPNs and went, this is dumb. I don't care if the gauge changes. They'll still fit on size if I do them on size 1s. So I'm a little bit past the heel on that. So I'm hoping to get these done quickly here. And I still have a flax sweater for myself that I'm working down the body that I want to get back to. And then I have a scarf on the needles. I'm trying really hard not to cast anything on because I felt, and I actually ripped out a sock that I hadn't worked on in well over a year and a half, I think. I'm still feeling, I've been feeling a little overwhelmed by the amount of knitting stuff that I have on the go. Socks, it feels like they go pretty quick, but everything else feels like it just takes forever. So I'm trying to get it down, but right now I've got 2 pairs of socks, a scarf, a baby blanket, and a sweater on the needles. And my brother and sister-in-law are having another child this October, so the baby blanket is for them. I don't even think I've shown it once on the podcast, and I'm like this much into it. I didn't even think to bring it. I started it actually almost a month ago. Just haven't worked on it. So yeah, that's that. My spinning work in progress. I'm still working on the 3 Waters Farms Superwash Merino Nylon in the Marin's Pencils colorway. This is my first bobbin. If I could get this to focus, that would be awesome. Focus, please. Pretty please. Focus. Focus on what is right in front of you. Oh my goodness. There we go. So this is my first 2 ounces. I've talked about this before, that I was thinking about doing a 3-ply and then wasn't sure, and I wanted it socks out of it for the 3 Waters Farms is doing a sock along. I think it's pretty consistent. All things considered, that this is my 4th spin. I'm going to do a 2-ply. I weighed the other bunch of fiber that I had, and it's exactly 2 ounces. So hopefully it'll ply up nicely, and I started plying it. The bobbin's on the thing. I'm in the middle of it. Didn't feel like taking the whole flyer off. So I figured the first 2 ounces was good. So I'm still finding, like, I had I finished this, and I didn't start the second half of the fiber for probably about a week and a half. Longer. Well, maybe longer than that. I finished this like the day after I recorded, or I don't even know. I don't know. I finished this between the last time I recorded and now, because I don't think I've showed it before. And then last week, Friday, I got a tattoo on my right leg, and because it's on my leg, they highly recommend mild standing and walking for at least 3 days afterwards, because if you're just to stop your leg from swelling due to the trauma of the tattoo. And it's in the kind of starting to get itchy, peely, gross, disgusting stage right now, so I'm not going to get up and show you. But I didn't spin all last weekend because of it, and I spun a little. I started the second 2 ounces yesterday. And I had a really hard time starting the second half. I think part of it is because it's so slippery, and I oiled my wheel for the first time, so I feel like it's pulling even more. I had a good thing. I had a good thing going, I really did. But I oiled my wheel, and now it feels different. So, yeah, that is that. I can actually show some enhancements since all my yarn is like right here. I have some right here on the desk beside me. So I don't normally show enhancement because it would be an episode of enhancement a lot of the time, and I feel kind of like a yarn pig because of that. But I'm going to talk about an order briefly. If I can get this bag open. Sorry for the crinkle. So this is from Long Dog Yarns. This is her July sock set. This is on her sock base, which is an 80% superwash, 20% nylon 2-ply. And it comes with a mini skein because it's a sock set. Sock is the base. It's a set because it comes with a contrasting heel and toe. So it's like green with all kinds of speckly goodness. And with this, I also bought her sock base in the Wild Child colorway. And then Luxe base, Luxe fingering, which is her 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon, in the Wildflower Bouquet colorway. So this arrived this last week. I haven't knit with any of her yarn, but I have quite a bit of it now. How awful is that, huh? So, yeah, that's all the enabling I'm willing to admit to. That's how it's gonna go. So I'm really glad that I have such a big finished object to share. That was exciting. I'm hoping maybe I'll get the flax done next time. That needs to get done. It was for Mad May, so another project that I started in May. And I have someone waiting for that yarn, so we'll see. So yeah, I will. This wasn't a long episode. It was a pretty short episode, and that's okay. I guess I could have brought a book. I finished a book recently. I don't remember the author, so maybe I'll look it up. It was a non-fiction book. If anything would load, that would be nice. So I recently finished The Stranger in the Woods, The Extraordinary Story of the Last True Hermit by Michael Finkel. It's based on a true story that happened fairly recently in Maine, the state of Maine, of course, about a guy who in 1986 parked his car, walked out of the woods, and lived in the woods as a hermit till he was found out in 2013. So, and he survived by stealing from the local cabins and stuff like that. So that's how he was found. That's how it was found out that he was living there. So it talks a lot about the community that he's from. It talks a lot about his family. It talks a lot about gives a lot of history and facts about hermits from the past, and how living alone and living in solitary like has different effects based on whether it's voluntary or not. So they talk about solitary confinement in prison systems and stuff like that. And then it talks about what happened afterwards and the relationship the writer of this book, and because he's a journalist, and the man had. I thought it was really good. It doesn't give any answers. It does highlight that his family did not want to talk about it after the fact. They did not want this man to talk to the author after the fact, after he was released from prison and had to do his, after he was sentenced. So there's a lot of unknowns as far as family life and the family in general, because they were so reluctant to talk. And he does talk about how people from Maine tend to be very closed-mouthed, and it's very, it's your own business is your own business, and you don't really talk about it and stuff like that. So that's kind of interesting, because I come from a family, like my grandmother, on my dad's side, my grandma passed away when I was 3, and my grandpa Funk, lived in a little small house by himself for the next, he passed away when I moved to Saskatoon that fall. So it's 2017. So he passed away in fall of 2013. He had been living in a care home since about 2011. So between about 1986 and 2011, he lived in a small house by himself. And I remember trying to interview him to get stories and stuff about my grandmother when I was in high school, and he would not talk about her at all. Would not talk about her. So, I get that, because my family, learning anything about my family history is very difficult because people don't want to talk about it. And I guess part of that is somewhat due to the fact that on both sides of my family, both my mom and my dad's side, they immigrated to Canada in about 1905 when my grandparents were young, to escape religious persecution in Eastern Europe at the time. My family has a Mennonite background. So I assume that has a lot to do with it. But really, it's hard to say. That you can make up whatever theory you want. I understand the closed-mouthedness of it, especially to someone who's not part of the family. It's a little bit harder when it's family and they want to know, I want to know about my grandma and he doesn't want to talk about it. But, it would be even more difficult to get anything out of, my family if it wasn't a family member, that kind of thing. But it's still really interesting to talk about. And I like all the information, and he gives a whole list of information at the end on his resources, the sources that he used, and the books, and both modern books written about the subject, contemporary books written about the subject of hermits and solitude and that kind of stuff, as well as historical references. So that's really cool. I really enjoyed that. It was a good book. I want to be a hermit. I don't know if I do, but I don't really talk to many people. Maybe I already am a hermit. No, just kidding. All right. So that is something that I finished. I read it in 2 days. I picked it up one night, read maybe 75 pages, and then I finished the rest of it the next night. It's not a very big book. So that, helps to finish it in a day. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's 224 pages or so. Subtract about 10 pages for front and back stuff. 200 pages, maybe. So yeah, I will talk to you guys in 2 weeks. Hopefully I will have more progress to show in various things, and I hope you guys are enjoying what you're working on, and I hope the back to school rush. I hit the wrong button and cut myself off. Hopefully everything's going well. Bye!